This is from the Unit 6 packet. This is number 35. I wanted you to have this. I know some students, we might have already done it or you might be familiar with this, but I wanted you to definitely have another example to work through in case you needed it. So also fill this out in your Unit 6 packet. This is number, I think, 35 again. From a student survey in a certain high school, administration found that 37% of students play sports, 83 are involved in a club, and 23 are involved in sports and clubs. Clearly, all of these things add up to more than 100%, so we know that the intersection needs to be considered when we're filling in the Venn diagram, and then we're going to find all the probabilities that we can. So in this case, we have the Venn diagram 14 and 23. So I know that the 23 was the intersection, so I can put that there first. And then knowing that the 37% of students play sports, 23 plus 14 is 37. So I just took what they gave me in the problem, 37, I subtracted out the intersection, and then that gave me the number of students that just play sports and are not involved in a club. And then in order to find the percent that's involved just in a club and not sports, you can take 83% of students that are involved in a club. You could subtract out the 23, and then you get 60% of students are just in a club and not in a sport. And then when you look at this, you're thinking, okay, well, what percent of students are in a sport or a club inclusive? And so if you do 14 plus 23 plus 60, and then the leftover amount that adds up to 100% will give you what you need to put on the outside of the circles still in your universe. So as of right now, 14 plus 23, we know this 37. 37 plus 60 is 97. And then there's only 3% of students left that are not involved in a sport or a club at all. So that's how you set up the Venn diagram for this. And then we'll be able to find the probabilities that we have. So we already, seriously, a lot of this stuff we've already done because we've already filled out the Venn diagram and the numbers that we were given are in percents. So we're able to kind of do this pretty quickly because a lot of this stuff we did all the work already, setting up the Venn diagram, thinking through the logic of it, and now we can just answer the questions. So the probability the student plays a sport but is not involved in a club, that's going to be just this cross-section of, not cross-section, wrong word, that just this section of the sport circle, not including, obviously, the part of that circle that overlaps with the club. So that's 14%. Same thing for B. If you visualize the part of this that needs to be shaded to answer part B, it's just this part of the circle here where we're just looking at the kids who are in a club and not in a sport. We already did the work for that. That's 60%. The probability that a student doesn't play a sport at all, you have 60% of students who are in a club and not in a sport. But then you also have the 3% of students in the outside part of the universe. So you have 60 students in a club, not a sport, and then 3% of students not in a club nor a sport. So that's 63% chance that a student does not play sports. Probability the student is either in a sports or involved in a club, that's the intersection. So just kidding. Probability the student is either in sports or involved in a club. Sorry, that's obviously the intersection plus just sports plus just clubs. So you have to consider all three of these. Now you could take the original numbers from the problem. So you could take 37%, which are what people are involved in sports. So you could take 37, you can add it to 83, which is the percent of people who are involved in any club. And then you can subtract out the intersection, which is 23, and you're still going to get 97% for that. So you have to kind of consider, am I going to use the formula for a question like D that has an or in it? Or am I going to actually just add up the segments of the Venn diagram that I put so much work into? Probability the student does not play sports and is not involved in a club. So no sports and no clubs, that's 3% of the kids.